Travis Hopson, Punch Drunk Critics. Talking with Reid Miller. How you doing, man?
Great, man. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
No, man. Thank you for talking with me about Joe Bell. This is man. Talk to me a little bit about this. Is to me, it always seems like it's an extra challenge to play a real life person. And this is, Jadin inspired a lot of people, and his story is being told on the big screen for the first time. Talk to me a little bit about the challenge of taking on this role.
Yeah, you pose a good point. For me as a young actor, it's like this is my first time playing a real person, and it is a lot more complicated because it's like with a normal character or any other character, unless you're playing a comic book character or a character based on a pre-existing franchise or anything else, it's like you don't have as much you know freedom. It's like you really have to like get it right, especially when you're playing someone like this who, excuse me, has had so much impact on so many people's lives and has been such a magnificent light to so many people. It's so important to get right. So for me, it was just about as much research as humanly possible, like talking to his mother, talking to his brothers, talking to the people who knew him, listening to videos, hearing his voice, and just getting to know him as best as I can, while also, you know, remembering that it's like those are how they viewed him. Those are like that's how we saw him, but there's so much happening inside that no one really knew about. So it's also finding things that I've dealt with in the past and
Mm.
still deal with today that are commonalities between me and Jadin. So that once I found that connection, I started to realize that there's kind of a picture that I can paint there that is a little bit of him, a little bit of me, and doing whatever I can to tell his story as honestly and authentically as I can.
What was that like, going back and talking to the people that he knew? Like, what were some of the things that they told you? What were some things you were able to adapt for yourself? Um, it seems like it would be pretty heavy stuff. How did that go for you?
It was really hard. It was really heavy because it's you're dealing with you know someone who was so important to so many people who took his own life. I mean, I can't even imagine that. And so a lot of the things that I took from it were, how kind he was, and how, more importantly, how unapologetically himself he was.
Mm.
He never ever faltered or wavered in his beliefs or changed who he was to make anyone happy. He was who he was. I mean, he was on the cheerleading team. He was the openly gay. He was the only openly gay teen at his school, and
Wow.
he did not let that change his decisions. He did not let that change who he is. Um, which is why it's so sad that we lost him how we did, because I feel like he was such a light, and if he was around today, he would just be is so magnificent like he was then.
How familiar were you with the story before you joined the film? Had you heard about it or anything like that?
Not very familiar, only because when that happened, I was so young.
Yeah.
But I had heard things about it like back and forth, like in my town, like on the news. Like I remember hearing of it, but I was so young at the time that I didn't really do any research until when the role came my way and I was reading the script and I realized it was based on a true story. It's like I did a bunch of research and it was like, wow, like this is crazy. Like the fact that something like this happened and not a lot of people know about it
Yeah.
is kind of a tragedy in of itself. It's like there is so much to learn from not just Joe and Jadin and how like what happened to them, but also like how they lived.
Yeah.
You had someone like Jadin who was always himself, and he was always an advocate for being who you're supposed to be. And then you have Joe who didn't quite get his son, but then in honor of his son and in a better chance to understand his son, went on a walk across America to promote it, to promote anti-bullying. I mean, what kind of character growth is that? That's incredible.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's so much to learn from everyone in this movie, from Joe and Joe's ability to change his opinion, soften his own heart, and want to learn more about his son and go on a journey of redemption for himself and of forgiveness and understanding. And Jadin, who even though he was faced with absolute adversity and pain and torment, he never faltered in who he was. So there is so much to learn from both of these people. And that's why it's such an important story, and why I knew I had to be a part of it. Was just such a powerful thing in so many different ways for so many different people.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about the film and your performance in particular is that it could be a really heavy film, and it is at times. But
Mhm.
I felt like your performance had kind of an energy and a lightness to it, and I thought that they depicted Jadin with a certain amount of agency and strength, I would say.
Thank
Is
you.
that one
Thank
of
you very
the?
much.
No, no, you're welcome. Talk to me a little bit about getting into that and bringing that out in your performance.
It's funny because he was so kind. That was actually the biggest hurdle for me,
Mm,
was because I grew up with bullying, and I was the smallest guy in every sort of situation that I was in. Um, I dealt with a lot of bullying. And so for me, I grew up having to defend myself.
mhm,
I grew up as a martial artist, which is one of the reasons like I want to do action movies as I get older and things like that. And
yeah,
I love action. But as a kid growing up, I had to defend myself in certain ways because I was the smallest guy. So I kind of learned to put on this bravado of like, someone 8 times as tall as me, is going to be messing with me. I got to be able to put my foot down and stand my ground, which
yeah,
is why I've always looked up to, superheroes and all that whole thing. Like I've always loved that. And so for me, that was the hardest thing actually, was taking my normal defensive aggression towards bullying and putting it aside, because that was not Jadin. And there was a lot of parts in this film that were improvised. Like Ray, the director, is such an amazing collaborator. We would do the scene how it's written, and then he'd go, now do it your way.
mm,
He's like,
wow,
if you feel the need to get up, if you feel the need to walk over there or walk over here, like we're going to follow you. Do what Jadin would do what feels right. And by doing that, I had to learn super quickly that my initial instinct is wrong. Like, you've seen the film, yeah?
yeah, yeah,
The scene in the bathroom, for
mhm.
example.
I was going to bring up that scene actually. Good.
Yeah, that scene, it was really hard. We had to do it multiple times because my initial instinct is to attack.
Mm,
My initial instinct is
yeah,
to fight back. And so there was that delicate balance with me and Ray where it's like, okay, well, Jadin was kind, but if he was ever attacked, he's not just going to let it happen. So it was that delicate balance of how much is too much and where's the line? But how do we make it where he's not weak? He's not going to just let it happen to him. So that was definitely something I had to learn and really overcome that hurdle of realizing we aren't the same, we aren't the same person. So it's figuring that out, and it's a delicate balance.
that's a lot of responsibility for a young actor to let them kind of do their own thing and improvise. Not a lot of veteran actors get that kind of get that kind of leeway.
I was very lucky, very lucky. Ray is a wonderful collaborator.
You mentioned that you want to do action movies someday. You get to work with Mark Wahlberg. Who better to talk to about that? How
Oh
was
yeah. Oh
how's that
yeah.
working with Mark? And did you guys have any conversations like that while you
Oh
were?
yeah. Oh yeah. Me and Mark have had so many conversations about, wanting to work together again and how we can do that. And he's a great guy, and he's someone who he takes care of his people. And, like myself, for example, it's just finding the right project. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of things he's working on that, me and him have had discussions about. So it's just a matter of time, I think. And me and Mark will most definitely work together again. It's just got to be the right thing.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like you. Yeah, if like I said, if you want to do action movies, he's the perfect
He's
guy.
the guy. I know he's the guy to talk to. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. One of the first things I ever talked to him, I'm like, so are you making another Transformers movie?
Yeah.
Slash, do you need a son? Like, like but no, he's such a great guy, and he gives the best advice, and he's just a wonderful artist and a great collaborator. And it was a great team to make the film with.
What are you hoping people take away from the film? People who go to see it. What's the overall theme that you want people to come away with?
I say this a lot, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but for me, it's really the only answer. And it would be empathy.
Mm,
It's just And I say this a lot too because it's true. It's like, in this day and age with the internet, and a lot of people have that sense of anonymity that gives them a sense of power and a sense of like free will where they can operate in a space where there's no consequences, which is where that's why like online bullying is so vicious
Yeah.
and so prominent everywhere. And not to say that bullying in school or in person doesn't happen anymore. Of course it does, but online bullying is so prominent. I mean, if you look in any comment section on any YouTube video, if you go to Twitter's so toxic. I mean,
Yeah.
I just hope that this movie shows people how powerful words can be.
Mm.
And we include the online bullying a very small bits, but it's shown when he's on his phone. Like, I mean, it's the bullying was constant, and for some people it is constant. For a lot of people it is. So I just hope that this film shows those people, wake up. Words, even if you're kidding or you're trolling or you think it's funny, other people aren't going to view it that way.
Right.
And words hurt people, and I hope people get that out of this. Learn to think twice.
Well, Reid, I appreciate you taking some time to
Thank you. Absolutely.
film. I wish you the best of luck, and best of luck to the film as well.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Next time if you ever do make that movie with Wahlberg, I want you to let me know, man. I'll
Yep.
talk to you about it.
Absolutely. You'll be the first to call. Thank you. This was wonderful. Seriously. Great conversation.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.